Hey everyone, welcome to today's edition of One Single Story, where each weekday we offer a brief lesson from a section of today's reading from the One Year Bible. My name is Stephen Mizell. Jay Rivenbark and I are joined by Wendy Korbusieski this week. And we're looking today, continuing to look at the story of Joseph, and we're in Genesis 44 and 45. And we're talking about Judah's transformation and how he had changed, and his view of his brothers had changed, and how Joseph's perspective on suffering shapes how we see our past and how God worked through those situations. So I hope you'll grab a pen and paper and let's have a conversation around the Word of God today. Hey everyone, today we're back in Genesis 44 and 45, continuing to look at the story of Joseph. And so Joseph has kind of set up his final test. He places his cup in Benjamin's sack, and Judah offers his own life to save Benjamin, which is a big reversal of his character from earlier. And Joseph reveals himself in this portion of the story and explains how God used everything for a greater purpose. Was there something in this section that you said I want to make sure we talk about?
I was just, again, amazed with Judah's whole transformation there, how it was just a beautiful example of a true heart change about his sacrificial love and his willingness to trade his life for his brothers. Just a continuation of that, and how he kind of just doubled down on that, not just being responsible, but willing to even give his life for Benjamin's. So that was my favorite part of the story here.
One of the things I saw in here was that perception of our past, whether it's accurate or not, determines the perception of our present. And I draw that from the verse where they said, God is punishing us for our sin. The fact they had never resolved that issue and dealt with it themselves was the lens they looked through life anytime they had a bump in the road, including this one, because they're saying, it's because of what happened there that was never dealt with, never made right, that we're experiencing this now.
Some guilt.
Do you ever have those moments?
That you think what you're dealing with now is a result of some of the decisions in the past? Yes.
Is it accurate or inaccurate?
It may be perception. It may be reality. Sometimes, depending on what it is, I try to reflect long enough to make that determination. And sometimes I'm convinced it is just perception and trickery of the enemy. Sometimes it's the hard reality.
A consequence.
That is a result of decisions made previously.
I can give you like some clear, concrete examples around a specific thing in the conversations that we've had. And I think it was much more difficult for Barbara to come to grips with than me. But having a blended family, having been through a divorce and all of the things that come with it, and the things that get inflicted on the children that are a natural result of it, and then the result of just some other unnecessary things that are added to it as well. It is easy to say that this is a result of, X. But after a period of time, like I said, it took her longer than me. After some point, it's no longer my fault, right? At some point, you are responsible for your own stupidity. But I think that, but I do think the enemy tries to guilt us into saying,
that's an easy one for him. It's a
right.
little layup.
And it's, that's right. It is a layup because we know we were guilty. We know we did it, whatever it was, whatever the parenting faux pas was, the slip up, the trait that we couldn't seem to get a grip on, whatever it was that
Yeah.
keeps popping. We know that's true. And though we may have gotten a grip on it today, and it seems that they had a grip on it, but I think that's an easy one. Like you kill your brother. Like if I'm the devil, I'm going to bring it up occasionally,
Yep.
every time you give me a chance. So Wendy, a couple of times you've mentioned Judah. What does his willingness to sacrifice himself show about a change in him?
For me, I think it's just like this capacity to transform is limitless. And I think that is just the underscore of that. Like no matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, no matter where you've come from, God's ability to change and transform your heart is limitless, and you have to live and walk in that. His grace is boundless. And if you can see that kind of transformation in Judah, you have to be so hopeful about what that can mean for yourself and be encouraged by that.
Yeah, just the reality that is available to us.
Yes.
That's available to anybody, when grace is applied, that you can move from where you used to be and who you were to where you are and who you are now can look completely different when you genuinely experience grace. And he's a great picture of that.
The reason why we can make that assessment is because it is as close to the identical situation as I think you could possibly imagine. We've already alluded to the fact this week that after Joseph, the favorite son, is gone, Benjamin becomes the favorite
The new
son.
favorite,
Right?
yeah.
He's only one left of, Rachel. And I think his response, and I think sometimes maturity does that. I jokingly say about my brother, I call him the baby Jesus. But both my mom and dad, and at least my dad would tell you this, and he would tell you why. My dad has told me why, because I've had the conversation with him. Now, my mom, I don't think she sees it. If we're going to have, as we're recording this, Thanksgiving is next week, so we're well past that. We're fasting now. And as you listen to this podcast, we're fasting because we had Christmas and Thanksgiving. She'll ask him if he's all right. Does he want more? She'll fix his plate for him. I mean, she can't hardly walk herself. And I mean that. But when I was younger, I resented it. It frustrated me because I thought, why? Why does he get favored status? And I could give you lots of examples. But as I've gotten older, I recognize they saw us different. And my dad, my dad has said to me, because I asked him one day, why this and not this? And it was about something in the past. And he said, well, the thing I've always known about you is you were going to land on your feet no matter what happened to you. You were going to get upright and keep moving. He said, Raymond, I wasn't as sure that he was as sure about his situation. And I felt like we needed to be reinforcements, in that. And as I've parented and grandparented now, I've seen that it is necessary, if you're going to do right by your kids, to treat them differently. I don't mean you love them differently, but you have to manage that
absolutely
differently because they're
different people.
They're different.
We've told our kids over and over, fair does not mean equal.
Fair is Eve ruined that for all of us,
Yeah.
and so, I think time, I think he probably sees over time, okay, maybe dad saw something different, or, or maybe it's not our fault that, mama had blue eyes or whatever. I don't know. That's terrible, ain't it? But clearly, I think he's matured and he's come to some kind of a conclusion. So Joseph has a distinct view of suffering that it gets quoted often. So how does his perspective on suffering shape how we see our own past?
It's rarely in the moment of your suffering that you can see or understand how all the pieces are working out. And there's a reason why the saying hindsight is 20/20 has stuck around. It's because it's not until after the fact. But the chances are that the pieces are still unfolding, that there's things in the works, there's things still left to unfold that are going to work all together in order to create a grand plan to come to its fruition. I imagine this long, elaborately orchestrated Rube Goldberg machine. Those machines, like you knock over the domino that kicks a ball, that rolls and sets a marble in motion, that runs a wind-up toy. Those kind of machines. It's kind of like that. Those very, very over-engineered, multi-step kind of things. That kind of suffering, like if this piece is going to hit this piece, that's going to hit this piece, and it's all designed and beautifully orchestrated by a God who designed it that way for a plan, and it's all for a purpose.
Yeah, because his response is literally to look at a bigger picture. He says, God sent me here ahead of you to make sure y'all had food and so that we would survive and life would go on.
To save many lives was the way he says it.
Many, yeah. And, for him to be able to look at it that way, I'm sure helped him process the fact that even though his brothers were who they were and he didn't deny what had happened to him, but he framed it in such a way, hey, God got a bigger plan and he wanted me to be a part of it, and this is the way it needed to unfold. I can't tell you that I typically, or at least not early on in a situation or circumstance, always look at it that way.
And I don't know that he did early on. I think he has a different perspective at this point because by the time this comes along, he's experienced 7 years of abundance and they're on the downside, the decline of famine, so they're 10 years, I don't know, a while into it, certainly. And I think he has probably a different view of it than he would have when he was in that prison.
Life itself, the older you get, I think there's a tendency, all of a sudden you start to get glimpses. You say, the fact that I'm here today, if that had not happened, that situation hadn't developed, this never would have happened, which created this thing that got me here. And I think the closer you get to the backside of life, you begin to get some glimpses into the bigger picture and how things are connected and interconnected. And there's a part of you that you're able at that stage of life that you weren't previously to say, you know what, I can see how God was in that now.
Yeah, and I can even see how God was in some of my bad choices. Not that he wanted them to happen, but like
he used it.
Yeah, well, I can think of 2 bad choices in my life that were the only one of them. Let me say it that way. I wouldn't be sitting here today 100% guaranteed I would not be sitting here today. And I think even in the bad choices that we make, he's still at work shuffling pieces around. Okay, this isn't what I want, but we're gonna move a couple of pieces around. And no, I don't think the destination ever ends. I think the destination is always the same. I think he's just moving pieces around, and I don't think you don't see it in a moment. I didn't.
No,
I couldn't. I
I don't
wouldn't
think
have
you
seen
can
it.
see it in the moment.
Right. I wouldn't have seen it in a moment. So thank you for joining us again today on One Single Story. Don't forget, God not only heals the past, he turns it into the fuel for your future. You can count on that today. So I hope you'll join us again on the next edition of One Single Story.